I think we're ready to go. Some explanation as to why there's two of us is probably warranted. So I guess I'll just say last time John got up in front of a group of people, he was allocated 10 minutes to speak and he went for 30. And our company doesn't let me anywhere unsupervised. So.
Matt knew that this was an entirely technical group, and I think he brought me just for comic relief. And he wanted to see what the business school version of the Viivo slides for PKWARE would be. I'm John Eyring, the GM of product at PKWARE, and Matt Little, the VP of product development. PKWARE, the company that gave the world zip standard, and for the last 25 years has been innovating on products beginning desktop compression and now primarily focused on enterprise data security. Our latest product, Vevo, is actually client-side encryption for the public cloud, so kind of the collision of these worlds. And Vevo is available on 4 major platforms and works with, right now, Dropbox, Box, and Google Drive and SkyDrive. And it's really interesting as you listen to Curtis talk. There are the above-the-surface security problems, and where we get a lot of attention. There's the under-the-surface security problems, and then there really is kind of the 10,000-foot. What about all the people walking out of the organization every day with the unstructured data who are, in fact, no longer on company devices, and they don't need the company network, and they've kind of brought their own everything, and they're creating a lot of content, and they're consuming a lot of content, and they're sharing a lot of content that sometimes never even hits enterprise infrastructure, and is really at a minimum easy to, in a lot of ways, for them to extract and store in the public cloud. This isn't a conversation that most enterprise IT folks are interested in talking about. The responses range from, we have an explicit policy, we do not allow, even the doorman knows. Someone literally last week said to us, the doorman knows the fastest way to get fired from this company is to store anything in the public cloud. And the more emphatic they are, the more you realize there's a real problem. And they typically refer to it as the Dropbox problem, but it's growing so fast that, in fact, I think about this a lot. And I had to laugh at Sunday dinner with my parents the other day when the conversation turned to reminiscing about these are worth full screen. Don't you think these are worth?
I think it won't record if I go full screen. That's like the weird Mac thing.
They're slightly. The pictures of the Teton Dam are slightly smaller than they would be if we weren't screen sharing. But I was born in Rexburg, Idaho, a small town in southeastern. Yeah, it'll do. A small town in southeastern Idaho, where in the early 70s, the Bureau of Reclamation decided to build an earthen dam on the Teton River. And they were filling it actually for the first time. And on June 5th or 6th in 1976, at some point in the morning, somebody noticed a small, keep going. Someone noticed a small, this is how good, you can just go ahead and advance. You can just go ahead and advance. Look how advanced I was. I drew my own circle. Right there, they noticed a small leak. And so the great part is that this guy, this is awesome, this is the rescue crew. Class is over. All right. This is the rescue. This is the D9 cat that is coming to fill the hole. To put it in perspective, here's what...
The sprinkler system.
Did anybody bring an umbrella today? So here's what's coming down the bank there, just to put it in perspective. They're coming to fill the hole, right? And so this is at about 10:30. By 11:15, here's what it looks like. no D9 cat anymore. And by 11:55, they've told the Snake River Valley to evacuate, and 11:57, 80 billion gallons of water flood down into the Snake River Valley. I can't keep this image from going through my mind every time we sit down and talk to enterprise IT folks who say, we have a policy, or we have a plan, we have a program, or we have a technology, when they, in the same, on the way out the door, they say, every time a laptop comes into the help desk, it's loaded with Dropbox files that we can't, in fact, track or control. And although, in fact, the public cloud problem may not be this dramatic, and it may not go that quickly, and it may be containable, in many organizations to a huge extent. It's gotten us asking a question at PKWARE, two questions really. One is, what do enterprises need in order to be able to detect leaks, to be sure that the policies and that the alternate technologies that they've offered, whether it's a private, public, hybrid cloud solution or great access to the corporate file server, whatever they've put in place, to make sure that it's actually working. What would they need to be able to detect leaks? And second, is it possible to protect data, some kinds of data, that in fact is either inevitably or desirably going to leave the organization and be shared with vendors and clients? And more broadly, is there a way to secure that as if it were damned in the corporate reservoir, the protected corporate reservoir, in a way that's secure enough that they'd be comfortable with it? And Viivo, we've spent 2 years developing, we believe, is the answer to those two questions, at a minimum to help companies detect their problem and hopefully to allow them to actually take advantage of the very cheap, very easy, somewhat inevitable public cloud services that their employees have voted in masses is the way that they want to store and share their corporate and their personal data in many cases.
So, as John said, PKWARE has been building compression and security solutions for almost 30 years. Our flagship product, PKZip, anybody ever heard of it? A lot of hands. It's great. And if you use PKZip for encryption, it's kind of hard to use. I mean, any encryption tool is hard to use, whether you're using PKZip or PGP or TrueCrypt or OpenSSL or anything. There's a lot of involvement. A lot of back-end IT systems, it's all automated, it works pretty great, but the stuff that the users use it's just, there's clicks. So what we did with Viivo is we wanted to make encrypting files to be stored in the public cloud as easy as it is to use Dropbox. Now, I know this is the New York Enterprise Tech Meetup, so I'm not sure how many Dropbox users there are in the room. Is there any? Oh, okay, great. Is there any that are allowed to use it at work? All right, that's good. Okay. So if you use Dropbox, there's a bunch of reasons why we think people like Dropbox, but one of the things that you don't really hear a lot is going to get files and sending things to people is a real pain. There's a lot of motion there. And with Dropbox, it's pretty great at sync, but it's also pretty slow. It has indexing problems. There's a lot of issues with Dropbox, but you don't really see any of that because it all happens in the background. When the file arrives, it just arrives. The same thing kind of, that we've struggled with Zip for all these years is, if you want to compress and encrypt and send something to somebody, first you have to compress it, then you have to encrypt it, then you have to send it. It's, kind of a pain. But if we get to jump on the Dropbox bandwagon and sort of work within their ecosystem and others like them, we get to take all the advantages with none of the drawbacks. So, what Viivo does is it's client-side encryption for public cloud storage. Anything you put in your Viivo folder that, we create on install will seamlessly compress, encrypt, and synchronize with whichever public cloud storage service you configure it to work with. We've got a demo here. I'll kind of show you how it works. Pretty straightforward. I've got I'm in my Viivo folder. I've got a favorite here for it. I'll just create a folder called You're going to try Enterprise Tech Meetup. We'll create a file in here. save it. So the beauty of working with Viivo is you don't really change your workflow too much. You use the same productivity apps, whether it's Office Docs or whatever. As long as you're working out of saving into copying and managing things within your Viivo folder, they're all seamlessly in the background, being compressed, encrypted, and synchronized to Dropbox. So if we wait just a second here. You can see we've got this one NYATM folder that's shown up. If I click on it, it's still working. Normally Dropbox is like really fast. You can see the file has a .vivo suffix. It means it's encrypted. If I were to download, open this file with a text editor, you can see it's all ciphertext. The other thing, to work with the public cloud, sharing is a big piece of that. And anybody that's done anything with encryption knows key management's a real pain in the butt. I mean, exchanging keys is a nightmare. Managing keys is a nightmare. So if we were going to build a solution like this, we had to sort of solve that problem for you as well. So we designed Viivo to work within, the native sharing mechanisms that are unique to each public cloud storage vendor. So for Dropbox, really the only way to share anything with anybody is to come into the web app and invite them. I'm not sure if I actually invited the right account, but so what I'm doing is I'm sharing the encrypted copies of the file with this person. So how does that work? We're going to have to do a complicated key exchange. I don't have the public key. How are we going to do it, right? So what Viivo does is it completely automates the key process, the key exchange process. And if I come over here to my Mac, where Dropbox is thinking again. Well, eventually, there we go, it did show up. Great, I invited the wrong account. Let me invite a different one. And just for grins, I'm going to invite one more account. So there we go. We've got another system here. We've received the Dropbox notification asking us if we'd like to accept the share. As soon as we accept the share, the local Dropbox client on this system will synchronize the encrypted copies. The Viivo client running on this system will see an incoming encrypted share and will automatically make a request through our cloud to the originator, the person who just initiated the share, asking, this person has just joined your share, do you want to allow them decrypt access into the folder? So, we try to make it as easy as possible. We're going to ask one question, and that question is, do you want to allow that person to come in? And that shows up, as an email. It shows up in the client as a notification. They'll just come up to the foreground of their screen whenever it shows up. And all the person has to do is click OK. Everything happens client side. It's all client side signed. Our server has sort of a trust no one model, so everything is done purely on the client side. Once that signature is in place, it synchronizes back through Dropbox, and the invitee's client will just decrypt the files. So once you've got that encrypted share set up, anything you put in there and pull out, there's no more interaction with Viivo at all. It's completely seamless underground, and the files just synchronize back and forth, encrypting and decrypting for the people that have access to them. Here's that notification. As soon as they click allow on the other virtual machine here, it will start decrypting those files. While it's doing that, I want to show you one other piece. So, for us, this was the client-side piece. This is what's going to allow people to use, Dropbox a little more comfortably within their organization. We've talked to so many companies that, their quote is, if our clients had any idea where we were moving their information in Dropbox, they would probably freak out. So, but they really don't have a solution that's easy to use. I mean, encrypting stuff manually and putting it in Dropbox is just too cumbersome. They're never going to use it. So we had to make it really, really simple. Anything you do in that Viivo encrypted folder always stays encrypted. The last 6 months or so, we've been working on taking this to the enterprise. We understand that the enterprise wants, they're really in sort of a block Dropbox mode and then a build versus buy mode to solve their, public-private hybrid cloud problem. Like John said, whether you've deployed Citrix ShareFile or VMware Horizon or any of the big ones, every time a laptop comes to the IT department, it's littered with unstructured data and Dropbox. So what we're doing with Viivo is giving the enterprise a look for the first time into what their public cloud storage problem might look like. If you have the Viivo deployed as part of your standard image, what the software does is it reports into an enterprise management console, which kind of shows you your users have these public clouds configured. Here's the organizations they're sharing with. Here's the devices they're using. Here's the data that's leaving your organization and going to public cloud. So it kind of, for the first time, gives them a view of what's happening. Whether they're an organization that wants to enable public cloud usage and then just kind of keep a lid on it, or whether they're an organization that flat out denies, we don't have a Dropbox problem here. Well, we'll tell you if you have one. So I've got the Viivo Enterprise Management Console up here. It's a pretty straightforward system. You've got an email domain that you're sort of monitoring. You can add as many email domains as you want to this. The purpose is your users may or may not be using your corporate email account for their sort of bring your own device or bring your own cloud initiative. So we'll show you everybody in your organization that's using it, the devices they're using it with. We'll show you sort of the activity that's split up, where the data's at, which cloud it's in, whether it's secured or unsecured, which devices by platform are connected, sort of your whole breakdown from the whole organization's perspective. Then, we kind of have a bunch of these, goofy charts with who has the most files, who has the most data, which pieces are encrypted versus unencrypted. And then we'll even show you shares. When you get into the sharing, that's sort of where you get a look at which people in the organization, which companies they're sharing with, what are the external domains in here, what are the names of the shares, how many files are in them, what's the data look like, and you can sort of drill right down into there from any of those charts to sort of get an idea of what your exfiltration looks like. There's a lot of companies that have deployed DLP, but they've also chosen to allow Dropbox, and that sort of, they lose that visibility. Dropbox is all transport security, so DLP can't really see that to a certain degree. So we're giving a solution like this to kind of give them visibility into what their public cloud storage problem might look like. And obviously a way to solve it. Time? That's it. Questions? Yep.
You started off the pitch with a leaky dam.
Yeah.
How big, is there any sense of how big this problem is? I mean, we also, yes, there's probably thousands of people with it.
It is really funny. We usually open up with a big stats slide, and because we always have the stats slide, I never bother to memorize it, so I don't know what it is. But I mean, Dropbox is north of.
The question is, what kind of problem is it, right? I mean, I haven't heard of any kind of fundamental.
So one of the fun ones from last year was Open Dropbox Week, where if you knew an account name for Dropbox, you can get into all their files. So that was a fun week. The other sort of problem that happens is, Dropbox employees are pretty vocal on social media about, we sit around and look at your pictures. There's this idea of zero value encryption. Like, Dropbox says they encrypt their files. It's AES-256. They do it in transit. They do it at rest. And, Google says the same thing. Google had an announcement last week. We're encrypting your data now, and then we're decrypting it so we can look at it. So it's like, what's so yeah, it's so those are kind of the problems. Did that answer your question?
Kind of. I just don't see the leaky dam yet. But,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's there, but
I think maybe just to iterate on the leaky dam, it's really back to your organization's choice of we don't have a Dropbox problem. John and I have sat in front of so many people that are like, no, nobody uses Dropbox here, and then the person like walking behind them has Dropbox on an iPad that the company didn't buy, and it's on a Verizon MiFi that the company doesn't own. So they're a bit sort of the disillusioned.
The reason our customers ask for it is, in many cases, it is the CI. It frankly was the C-level that 2 years ago got an iPad for Christmas and walked in and said, "I want everything on it. No one else can have it." And it didn't take them very long to realize that, in fact, it doesn't take the IT department for most employees to do the exact same thing with their Starbucks, connection and, the device they brought from home. And so they suddenly realized that I'm probably not the only person in the organization doing this on my own network, my own devices. And that's why they started asking before they even know the magnitude. And it's why we're starting with, hey, let's see what the magnitude of it is in any organization.
I'm looking at your website and you've got the pricing here, $4.99 a month. What is that, per user, per data quantity, or what?
So that's funny. We're going to drop that off the website tonight. That's a version of the product that we just rolled all those features into the free version, so that one doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, to answer your question, it would have been $4 a user a month for that. Do you think that's fair?
So that's also if we're working together. But if we're working together, so in essence, that's $10 basically.
Yeah, both of us were going to use Viivo. Yeah, we paid each $5 a user a month, right?
You could have been using the free version in that share.
Mm-hmm.
So both people would not necessarily need to have been paying, but it would be. Again,
For us to go to market right now, I think we're centering around the enterprise solution, not so much that prosumer product that you're probably looking at right now. I mean, it's got to be free. It's got to be out there. There really can't be any. It's the same model we use with PKZip, right? I mean, it's free for personal use, and I mean, the organizations that are purchasing it, they want to make sure that everybody will always be able to decrypt and will always be able to, decompress the files they're sharing with them. So, same idea. One more.
So you allow the functionality to easily share encrypted files between people,
yeah.
But can you enforce that I encrypt the sensitive file, or if I just drag it into?
So that's the great part where we're going with the admin console. Yeah, any setting in the client you can configure from here. You can set policy, you can apply contingency key, and then you can even go back in and kick people out. So down the road, if somebody leaves the organization, this actually happens to us. During the course of developing this product, when people leave the team, we just go into the shares that we're using for collaboration, deny that user access, and then they no longer have access to the files on any device, wherever it's at, connected. So your question was more.
Yeah, no, but also, I mean, just because I had an encrypted folder and a non-encrypted one. If I'm going to share something with someone that doesn't have Viivo, I'll just put it in the non-encrypted, and
yes,
it's easy, but I can still shoot myself in the foot.
For sure.
So,
yeah.
Any thoughts on enforcing that?
We can easily do that because we're crawling Dropbox. If somebody for the organization wanted to say, I want to encrypt the entire Dropbox, we can very easily do that. It's just a question of, for us, it's got to be that balance between security and usability. The users will ultimately reject it if corporate IT comes down too hard. But yeah, maybe that's the right thing to do. I mean, the user just wants to use Dropbox and get the job done. Is that it?
Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks.